Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In the series of pattern printing, so far we have seen so many patterns. In this video, we will see how we can actually print this particular pattern. So to print this particular pattern, if you carefully see here, we have 5 rows. So for that reason, I will take a variable rows and I will assign the value as 5 because we have 5 rows here, right? So later we will take the input of rows dynamically from the user. Based on the user input, we will actually print the pattern. We will do that later. So for the timing, let's take the value of rows as 5. So if you carefully see here, along with spaces, along with numbers, we are also having spaces here. In the first row, we don't have any spaces, but in the second row, we have one space here. The third row, we have two spaces here. The fourth row, we have four spaces. Like that, the spaces are having in this particular pattern. Without actually printing the spaces, you cannot actually print this whole pattern. So for that reason, to keep track of the spaces and to print the spaces, I will take a variable spaces and I will assign these spaces with 0 because in the first row we don't have any spaces. For that reason, I am starting the spaces with 0. So later what I will be doing is that we have 5 rows, right? So to print these 5 rows, I will use a for loop. That is what we generally do when we have a statement which is repeating more number of times. We have one row, we can actually, to get 5 rows, we can actually use a for loop. So for that reason, I am using for I in range. I wanted to generate a range of values. So what is the range of values that I wanted to generate is that if you carefully see here, I am having 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like that, the values are decreasing, right? So what I will be doing is that I will take the values in the descending order from rows till 1. So for that reason, I am taking rows and I am taking 0 and I will mention with minus 1. So by mentioning this, I am telling that I want rows to 0 on each iteration. I want to get the descending order. For that reason only, I am mentioning this this particular range function. So later what I will be doing is that to understand what we are having inside of this for loop, I will just print the value as value of I. So if we can see the result of I, we are getting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We can relate this particular result with this particular pattern, and by improving this, we can actually get this particular pattern. So for that reason, you carefully see on each row, if I have 5 here, and I am getting 5 5s. If I have 4 here, I am getting 4 4s. So is it not repeating these particular values on each row, right? So for that reason, what we will be doing is that whenever we have a statement which is repeating, we generally use loops, right? So what I will be doing is that inside of this for loop, I will mention one more loop to print this particular values on each row. So for that reason, for j in range, I will generate a range of values from 1 till I plus 1 because based on this I value only, we can actually and we can actually get this particular pattern. For that reason, I am getting the range of values from 1 till I. So I will mention inside of this for loop with I. So if I print this, I can able to get the values, but not exactly the pattern. So, but we can correlate these values. We have 5 5s, we have 5 4, we have 4 4s, we have 3 3s, we have 2 2s, and we have 1 1. So the only thing that what we need to do is that we need to arrange these values like a pattern. So for that, I will be doing is that I am mentioning an end here, get the spaces, and I will also mention a print statement. By using this end, we are telling I want I don't want these values in the new line. I want these values in the single line. But what happened is that whenever we are getting this particular thing, everything will be in a single line. But to divide that, we are mentioning this print statement after completion of execution of this for loop, which is a inner for loop. If I execute this, I can able to get this particular pattern. But this is not the pattern that what we wanted. If you remember the statement that I mentioned previously, without actually printing this particular spaces, we cannot actually print this particular pattern. So for that reason, we need to first print the spaces, right? Where we need to print the spaces is that before actually printing these numbers. So for that reason, in the outer for loop, I will mention a print statement spaces, and I will use string multiplication to get the spaces. I am mentioning a spaces. I am multiplying the space with the spaces variable. So I am mentioning an end equal to nothing. So I don't want an end with new line character which is of default of print. So I am replacing that end with nothing. So I will get, if I execute this, I will get nothing. So the reason is because if you see here on each iteration, the value of spaces will be increasing. The spaces are increased on each iteration. So for that reason, we need to mention one more statement spaces less equal to 1. By mentioning this, the spaces value will be incremented on each iteration. If we execute this, we can actually get the actual pattern that what we have expected. So now I hope you can able to understand. If not, let me explain quickly one more time for you. So here we are having rows of 5 based on the observation of this particular pattern. So we have also observed that we need spaces to actually get this particular pattern. So for that reason, I am mentioning spaces. So to get this particular rows, how many number of rows, we are mentioning a for loop and we are generating a range of values. The reverse direction in the inverse descending order of 5 which is of rows till 1. For that reason we are generating a range of values. Inside of this for loop, first we are printing spaces because before this particular numbers we are getting spaces. For that reason we are printing spaces. Later we are mentioning one more for loop to generate the values on each row. For that reason we are mentioning one more for loop here. So based on this, we will be getting the values. After completion of this for loop, we are mentioning a print statement which gives a new line character. After completion of these 5 5s, it will go to the new line, and after completion of 4 4s, it will go to the new line. For that reason, we are mentioning a print statement which gives a new line character. At the end, we are mentioning spaces incremented on each iteration. So based on the observation of this pattern, we have identified on each iteration, the spaces are increasing. For that reason, we are mentioning spaces plus 1. So now what we will be doing is that we will take input of rows dynamically from the user. For that reason, I am input asking user to enter rows. So if I execute this, and if I give the value as 5, we can able to get this particular pattern which is of what we have previously. If I give one more number which let's say 8, we can able to get this particular pattern exactly what we have expected. So I will give one more number, let's say 3, we can able to get this particular pattern. So like this we can able to generate the pattern any number given by the user. Now I hope you can able to understand this logic to generate this particular pattern. So in the next video, what I will be doing is that I will try to print this particular pattern. So to stay updated, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification so that whenever I upload any video, you will get the notification. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.